Stockton, California. I'm not surprised, motherfucker. Nate Diaz defeats Anthony Pettis in a great fight. UFC 241. Now, what up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more fighting. Let's talk about it. I gotta hurry up and do this before the main event. Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic Part 2. You know, very good card, man. I enjoy Yoel Romero. The main card is fire. You know, Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa. Very tactical, but it was still a war, and a lot of explosive punches from some of the best middleweights. You know, Yoel Romero is ranked number 2. Paulo was moving up. He ranked 8 or 9 or something. That was dope. But I want to talk about Nate Diaz, Stockton's own. Shout out to Stockton. You guys know I represent NorCal, and shout out to Stockton. Y'all got one. 3-year layoff where this man Nate Diaz came out and put on the show. Shout out to Anthony Pettis as well. I think Anthony Pettis, the bottom line, what I noticed from this particular fight, very fun fight, very good fight. Anthony Pettis, overall, he fought the wrong fight. He fought a fight that, to me, didn't make sense and wasn't beneficial with all things considered. First of all, he's newish to this weight class. So, out of all people, why would you fight Nate Diaz how he was fighting? You know, back against the cage. Nate Diaz did a great job in round 1, smothering Pettis, not giving him a range, keeping him backed up on the cage, applying a nasty, hard to deal with pressure. We all know the Diaz brothers, they do the triathlons and have insane endurance and cardio. So despite being on a 3-year layoff, that was impressive. You could tell Nate Diaz has taken care of his body. You know, people look at him smoking weed and stuff. Weed is natural. You know, weed is natural, and it is not something that's clearly affecting him. Some people I know that smoke, that chief, they need weed to cope, you know, so it actually, you know, clears their mind. And I can imagine Nate Diaz is kind of pissed off with the UFC not having fought since Conor McGregor. So ultimately, there was no slippage from Nate Diaz, which was one of the questions, because you have to look at what Pettis has done recently, moving up in weight and looking good at the weight, even capturing a stoppage against Wonder Boy, Superman Punch, and all this stuff. So that was one of the questions. But all in all, I think Nate Diaz, he was the Nate Diaz we've always seen, rugged, durable, not afraid to, you know, take a shot to release hell on you. And the type of fight Pettis was fighting was beneficial to Nate Diaz. Again, getting smothered, backed up, rugged in the trenches. And you see Nate Diaz, he loved it. He loves that battle of attrition. He loves that rugged shit. He loves that, like, all right, come on. One of the classic photos that I'm sure is going to come out and classic moments from this fight was when Nate Diaz was on the ground, and then he was using both hands to signal, like, come on, you know. And you could tell that Pettis was gassed from round 2 and round 3. Pettis was really on autopilot, in my opinion, and surviving off of pure heart and, you know, just courage, just because he is a true fighter. He's a fighter with heart. But low-key, Nate Diaz was dogging him in this fight. I think he won pretty much every round, although I think Pettis had spots where he was doing good, you know, some kicks and stuff. He just ultimately, he didn't fight the right fight. This was the Nate Diaz show. So hell of a welcome back party for Nate Diaz. I'm happy, you know, just being from NorCal, but my commentary is based on what I've seen. Round 2, it was getting ugly. You could have argued that it could have been stopped because Nate Diaz had Pettis hurt and he wasn't responsive. He wasn't throwing anything back. He was just kind of in survival mode, you know. So there was a point in round 2 at the end where it really could have been argued that it should have been stopped by the ref, but the ref gave the benefit of the doubt and let Anthony Pettis kind of go out on his shield, and he did that, and he survived, and he showed heart in spots, and, you know, he has to go back to the drawing board. But I like what I seen. The third round was classic too. This fight really gave you everything you needed. The third round, the thing that was very impressive is Nate Diaz was putting Pettis in compromising positions on the ground and sinking his hooks in, and it looked like, oh damn, he might do what he did to Conor McGregor. But Anthony Pettis, he also having a skilled ground game, he was reversing it, and they were just slipping and sliding on the mat and trying to jockey for position. Very impressive. That's, if you look at it, Nate Diaz his ground game is phenomenal, you know, but it credit to Pettis' ground game because he was able to get out of some oh shit moments. Whereas when you look at Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor, especially the first fight, he was Conor McGregor is not well versed in that. I just all in all, I thought it was a great fight. I think Pettis, to win the fight, he wasn't doing what he needed. You don't go in with the Stockton slappers themselves, crazy cardio, and fight in the phone booth and have your back against the cage and let them smother you, rough you up, shoot at close quarters, uppercuts. And Nate Diaz's stamina is fucking ridiculous because even in his ground game, he's just touching you with shots. That adds up because your body naturally fatigues. You've seen in round 1 and 2 that Pettis' energy was definitely being zapped. So just getting hit, even though it looks light, you're getting hit and your ribs are already bruising and stuff, and you just getting touched, just bow, 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 keeping his hands busy. So Nate Diaz is phenomenal at that, keeping his, not just throwing hard shots, pacing himself, keeping his hands busy. So you're gonna feel it, the totality of it, the accumulation and the attrition war. So I thought Nate Diaz looked good. I'm getting ready to watch the main event. All in all, Pettis showed heart. He tried. He had some good spots. It was definitely a good fight, but this, for what Pettis was saying before, and this has been a lingering thing, I just don't think he fought the smart fight that would have gave him the best fighting chance to win. And even after round 2 ended, Pettis kind of dropped to his knees and looked zapped. He looked tired. So to me, he was kind of surviving off of fumes, but he made it to the final bell. This was a 3-rounder. Just like I said in the Yoel Romero Costa fight, Costa started getting tired. So I think if this would have been a 5-rounder, like a championship fight, and it had been a 5-rounder, that would have been even worse for Pettis, because Nate Diaz can do that, with the triathlons and the cardio he has. He can fight like that all day. You've seen both fights with Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is an accurate southpaw striker. Pettis is a southpaw, but I don't know in terms of strikes if he's quite as accurate as Conor McGregor. So, it just was the wrong fight for him to win. But it was like the Nate Diaz show, because this was right up Nate Diaz's alley, kind of like the Michael Johnson fight. You don't want to be in the wheelhouse with Nate Diaz, seeing who can throw the higher volume of punches, because more often you'll lose. And then Nate Diaz is real fluid, real loose with his shots, and they're just awkward. And then on top of that, he's durable. So I didn't notice any ring rust or cage rust for Nate Diaz. It was a good back and forth competitive affair, but I think Nate Diaz clearly won the fight. He got the victory. So I'm going to check out the main event. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. But this UFC 241 is fire. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to your thoughts. And the Conor McGregor trilogy just became big. I don't know what Conor's doing. He's punching old people over proper 12 and shit like that. So I don't know. But there's obviously a lot of money, because off of that performance, you could definitely go straight into that. But there's other guys at the weight class. But considering that Pettis was new to the weight class, and I think he's feeling himself a little bit too much because he had the Superman punch and some exceptional wins and stuff, you got to realize the battle of attrition. You're fighting somebody who's naturally bigger than you, naturally competed at higher weights. Like Nate Diaz, just 2 fights at a high level, grueling fights with Conor McGregor at 170. Nate Diaz has that in tow. You don't have, in some of your fights since he moved up, were finishes. So you didn't even have like full rounds where you went the whole duration. So I don't think the pacing would have benefited Pettis fighting how he was fighting. But, he did what he did. Nate Diaz did what he did. He won. He's the rightful winner. Can't wait for the main event. Shout out to DC and Stipe. If you're new, consider subscribing. Make sure you smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego. Signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.